Fake smiles, walk miles in an obvious funk. Thoughts deep, boys steeped in the depths that he sunk. Big stress, depressed in the middle of fall. Sky gray, high late in the thick of it all. I wonder, how long can a human survive just staying alive or carrying the rest of the tribe? Waiting for the day to arrive or struggling dies, and I be doing way, way more than getting by. So why? Got myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, got myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Realize life is so much more than just living a day. Every day I can sit and reflect and breathe and connect to myself and know that I've been given. See, giving up is not an option. So when I'm looking at gray skies, I'll be adopting a new way to deal with a test. Lord, relieve me of stress and bring me looking like we're blessings dropping. And so I got myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, here we go. Yeah. Let's do this. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. In times of test, let no harm beset me, oh my Lord, oh my Lord.
Oh my. Good evening, everybody at Divided We Stand. This has been one hell of a week, let me tell you. And it's been one hell of an hour just to try to get on. We've had a lot of issues trying to make it live tonight. We've had just some difficulties with the audio, and we had the same problem last week, but I think we're a lot better off now. So in any case, we're here. And tonight I want to introduce my wonderful guests. I'm going to put all three of us together in a triptych here. I believe it'll work. And I guess to my left, but to your right, if you're watching this, we have the man who's nothing better to do on Tuesday nights and Saturday nights.
Or any other night.
Or any other night. And we have Ryan Velez from Kentucky. Are you from Louisville, Ryan?
Yes.
Well, believe it or not, I was in Louisville about 6 or 7 years ago, and I have to say, I had a great time. I brought some students down there. They had the DECA competition, and what a wonderful time we had. I expected that to be all, difficulties and work, but that was they have that little downtown thing, that marketplace or whatever it is downtown where they have the restaurants. I forget what it's called.
I'm not sure if you're talking about 4th Street Live or if you're talking about
yes, that's it.
Row.
Yeah,
4th Street Live.
Yeah, it really was great.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun, and my students played jokes on me all the time, so that was that. But anyway, Ryan, it's great to see you again as usual, and Ryan's a regular now, so it's great to see everybody. And as you know, it's been just an absolutely bizarre week with Donald Trump. I mean, it goes without saying that it's always bizarre with Trump, but it's been absolutely crazy, and I've become crazy because I've always talked about the de facto coup, but now I think we're having the real coup. So maybe I'd like to start off with you, Dave. You're the one who calms me down.
Well, first of all, Ryan, you're not on them right now, but you always add so much to the show. I wanted to start with that. And we need all we can be added because with Brian, sometimes it's subtraction. Brian, I was thinking maybe tonight, instead of doing this show, I was really fascinated with the fact that you've traveled to Louisville. Why don't we just spend a couple hours? You could just say other cities you've been to. Like, have you been to Vineland, New Jersey? Maybe people would want to know that. Philadelphia.
I've been to Bridgeton.
What about Bridgeport, Connecticut? What about Intercourse, Pennsylvania? Have you been there? I mean, people want to know this. Brian. Listen, Brian did a great job tonight. He really did. It was touch and go. It's all his fault. No, it's not. But the interesting thing, I was wondering how I wanted to address the situation, and I think it's this way. My friend, the founder, the brains behind Divided We Stand, the best way I can describe him is he is to these shows what Rudy Giuliani is to the legal profession. Okay, that's about. The only difference is Brian doesn't have hair, so you won't see anything. If you see something brown,
well, I have it where it counts, so that does matter.
Where what counts?
Forget that comment I just made. You're gonna get me in trouble.
I know that. Okay. Yeah, look,
it's pretty sick. I didn't know why I said that. That was stupid.
You have to laugh, and as people who follow this show realize, we all have our little roles to play. And when I say roles, I don't mean we're acting. And Brian is great in this respect. He looks at something and can find the darkness, which is always within, and there's darkness within everything. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I tend to look at it and can find the lightness. And so we kind of balance it out. And then Ryan comes along and he tells the truth. So it's a pretty good trio we have here.
Right.
This week, crazy doesn't even begin to describe it. Okay. Let's just leave it at that. We'll say one thing tonight I would request. I've been getting them a lot this week. If anybody's listening tonight and you have a question, tonight is really that. I mean, I don't know how you could spend the week and not have questions. I mean, I know I do. It doesn't mean we have answers, but you and I spent more time than normal this week, maybe, Brian, just talking about the situation. I mean, I have my feelings, and that's what's a little scary. I have my feelings. You have yours. Ryan has his. And guess what? Nobody's inside Trump's head. Maybe Trump's not even inside Trump's head. And we really don't know what's going on. I later on, I'll talk a little bit about something. I'm talking very well tonight. It's something that I've talked about before. I think there are three possibilities, and I think they're all intertwined, which would really be, I guess, the best way to describe it is what the hell is Trump trying to do?
And we will have to go over those.
The nice thing is, anything legal has been a complete and abysmal failure.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ryan, I'm going to get you on here and put your name in here. I that I've always thought of this as a de facto coup, starting right in 2016. And you saw some of my comments concerning what they were trying to do in Michigan. You've seen how you've got this lunatic Mr. Pillow guy laying out $2 million for a murderer. But how do you feel about this? Do you think that we're okay until the 20th, or are you starting to get nervous?
I'm not nervous. I definitely think there's reason to be nervous. I mean, it's not like the last 4 years have been smooth.
Echo, Brian.
Yes, sorry. Got it. I got it. Thank you.
Okay. But yeah, I feel like, these people, by these people, I mean, and I'm going to say this very specific term, elected Republicans. Mm-hmm. I feel like they'll try anything to keep power. And I think they're doing everything they can to push the people as far as they can to see what they can get away with. And I think they're field testing ideas right now. And I don't understand it, but I think that they're not going to succeed, or well, rather should say Trump is not going to succeed in staying in the White House. I don't believe that. He's got, I think, something like 20 lawsuits, and all he has is 4 feet to show. Like they moved him 4 feet closer, or his people when they were counting votes, and that's the only victory he's had in court. I mean, it's a joke, and Rudy Giuliani keeps saying, "Oh, I've got a lot of evidence, but I can't share it with you right now because of the, you'll figure out my plan or whatever the hell he's trying to
Right.
pitch to us." I mean, it's just nuts, Right. So no, I don't personally think there's anything to worry about, other than the damage Trump will do while in office for 2 more months.
Right.
I mean,
Now,
there's that's separate, but yes.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now, Dave, we've had the conversation over the phone, and you're the one who's been trying to allay my fears. And again, and that I have every reason. You've said it. You have every reason to be nervous.
There's nothing. I mean, no. Anybody's afraid of anything is.
But is there
in their
anything
sane mind.
between now and January 20th? Is there anything that you really say? Even if it's that 1%, what is the one thing that could possibly happen, or do you think it's baked in right now that we have the inauguration?
It's baked in that we have the inauguration, and here's why. Okay, they threw everything they could. So let's just put it into parts. I like to do that. We're going to talk. I'm going to Ryan put his category. I'm going to put mine out tonight. It's 3 groups involved in this. It's Donald Trump, the person. Added to that would be any of his appointees. So I'm going to call it the Donald Trump and his administration. All right, they're the appointed people. I'm going to call the remaining elected officials, both in the House and in the Senate. I refuse to call them Republicans. I refuse to call them conservatives. Those true Republicans and conservatives came out against Donald Trump. They realized that he's bad for the party. He's bad for the country. So I'm going to call them Trumpublicans, if I may. And then I'm going to talk. I try to be nice and call them Trump supporters or Trump followers, but the cult followers. So you've really got so all of them together independently. I mean, it wasn't a plan did everything they could before the election to make it difficult for Joe Biden, i.e. the Democrats, to win. And none of it worked. Okay. What do I mean by everything? Voter suppression, intimidation, the Proud Boys, which I always say have nothing to be proud about, out there running their shtick, whatever. The next chance they had was election night. If you're going to have corruption, if you're going to have fraudulent votes, it has to happen on the day of voting. When else can it happen? Right? Now, people say, well, they could get to the machines later. No, it doesn't work like that, kids. It's done. So you pass the 2 biggest hurdles. We breathed a sigh of relief, but we all knew. I've said, Brian Williams last night, I kind of cool when somebody confirms you, said, a friend of his said to him, who wasn't involved in politics, that November 4th through January 20th could be one of the darkest periods in American history. And it is. It's already turned out that way. But even during this dark period, the one thing that can't happen is Donald Trump continuing in office. Okay, a 1 in 1,000. If you don't like those odds, 1 in 10,000. If you don't like those odds, 1 in a million. I mean, I don't see anything on the horizon. But what I do see is some very scary things happening already. Again, my thinking runs along these lines. Trump, that whole group I talked about, again, not colluding or not being together, but this plan is basically this. So it's Trump and whoever's advising him or whoever he listens to. Number one, they're trying everything they could to let him retain the presidency. Why does he want to retain the presidency? A few quick reasons. He doesn't like to lose, although he'll redefine losing. And that's part of what he's doing, guys. He wants to redefine losing. So in his mind and in his people and the people who love him, the 23 or 73 million, he didn't lose the election. It was taken from him. So they're setting that, and people are starting to buy into it. I think this, I don't know if you guys saw it, 71% of the Republicans in America polled, you always have to say polled, believe that it was a fraudulent election. So that's pretty successful.
Yeah, that's frightening, though, Dave. You can say that again so people understand that. I mean,
well, okay. I'm not real good. Ryan, you're the figures guy from chess. I'll just round it off. Let's say it's 75. It's actually 71%. So if you have 73 million voting for him, and if this poll is accurate and represents all of them, 3/4 of 73 million is what? I don't know.
Like 52 million, something like that. I'm guessing.
Yeah. I'm just saying quickly, who already believe that the election is flawed. Now, what does that mean? Well, in the long term, we depend on elections to run America. If we lose faith in elections, we are done as a country. There's no hope. All right. But in the short term, it plays to Trump's two other advantages. What he's looking to do, in my estimation, I mean, he would take the presidency. It came to him. I don't think he sees it coming to him now. I mean, and why does he want the presidency so much? He hasn't been president day one. You know, do you really notice, outside of more people dying, any difference since he hasn't done a damn thing since election day than before? No, we don't. He wasn't president ever, not from day one. But he knows the presidency gives him what used to be called the bully pulpit. He doesn't care about that. It gives him access to crowds that even if he were a billionaire, he couldn't get. He's a adulation and adoration junkie. He needs those. With president, that would continue. And maybe equally as important, or maybe more important, he knows there's certain legal protections that come from being president. He will lose those. When he leaves, there will be tremendous pressure to file federal charges against him. There will be even greater pressure to file criminal charges and civil charges in the state of New York. That'll have to play out, but he knows he's got some protection on that. So he doesn't want to leave for that. And the third reason, I think now, if he doesn't call me, he never did. I don't know why. But what I think he's doing is this. Those two things are still in play because they lead to the third one. When he leaves the White House, and it may literally be 11:59, legally he can't be there after noon, he will leave. You want to lose some sleep tonight. He will leave still as the titular head of the Republican Party. Now, what does that mean? It means until something happens, he will be the acknowledged and presumed front runner for the Republicans to run as president again in 2024. Right?
Can we stop right there for a second, though? Because
absolutely,
you said 11:59. You know, he is going to go. Now, Ryan, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you essentially going to agree with that he will leave that day? You don't expect
on
any...
the 20th?
Right.
Yeah, I think he'll leave. I don't know how he'll leave. I don't think that he'll want, like, I don't know. It's one of those things, like, I can see him saying, yeah, take me out in handcuffs to rile people up. And I can also see him saying, no, I'm leaving and screw
But a guy like
up.
that, Ryan, who
can see both.
And Dave,
yeah,
here's a guy who's a narcissist. He has such an ego. That day, I mean, how do they even? I mean, does he have some type of protest while the inauguration goes on? What does he do to placate himself?
Okay. That's an excellent question. And again, we're out
and only because he's a narcissist. Right. He's got to do something. He can't accept defeat.
We're out here in dark waters where we've never been. America's never been here before. So again, I have to look at what's happening. And again, I do have the luxury, I guess, I'm going to call it a luxury of living in Washington, D.C. and knowing a few people and saying, I don't know if you gentlemen are aware that the women's group that planned the last pro-Trump rally is also going to do one on December 12th. That'll be the day when all votes will be certified. The Proud Boys have already thanked them and will be on their way. So you're saying on Inauguration Day, what will Trump do? I think Trump will encourage his supporters, the Trump cult, to come down here and do whatever they can to disrupt that inauguration. That's what I think will happen.
There'll be social distancing there too, so that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, okay,
not with the Republicans, of course.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. The difference is, I laugh about this, but it's kind of true. Not kind of true; it is true. I wanted to go, and for a number of reasons, so badly last Saturday, right? And my granddaughter, whom I love, it's that cliche, but I do love more than my own life. She said, "Grandpop, you're not going." And she said to Grandma, "What are you, crazy? You're going to let him go?" And I didn't for her, but there were a lot of reasons. I mean, no, I want to go, to get some photos but I do want to go to confront them, just to say you're bullies and, just my presence. I'm not overrating myself, but we need to do that. But the masks are a very real thing. I mean, I've been in large protests with the anti-Trump forces. All of us all of us wore masks. You've seen in the White House, on the streets, they just don't. And Trump does these little things, right? That plants. He's already attacking Mayor Bowser. He claims that she deliberately told police not to get involved and save any Trump supporters. Last Saturday when they were in. So he doesn't miss a trick here, or whoever's advising him. So you asked Brian if that answers your question. Now, what's even a more interesting question is, what will the inauguration look like? Okay, there's talk that John Roberts, it will actually be, he will be someplace else when the oath of office is administered. I mean, what do you do? I don't know. I have no idea.
No, when you say he's going to be I mean, is he taking a trip? I mean, it doesn't sound.
No. He would not be in front normally like this. He would be.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. When you said that, I get
distancing. Like we're doing. Okay, somewhere. It'll just be now. I was talking to some friends down here, and we're all saying, are you going? Are you going? And I am going to go. It's too cold, but I'm going to go anyway. But I'm going to be not for any fear. I'm just going to be on the edge of the crowd. There will always be an edge of the crowd, right? And I just want to say I was there. I've never been to an inauguration. I've never been to one this important. So I want to do that. The last point, though, as I say, remember the two. One was he's throwing all this stuff to overturn the election, but that has come and gone. He's still in his destructive period where he's trying to make it as difficult as he can for not necessarily Joe Biden personally, but any of his successors to succeed. I'll tell you what has a lot of people in D.C., and this is really frightening on many levels. I believe it's the 13th of December. If there's not a continuing resolution that is signed by the president, the government of the United States will come to a halt. And Trump and his Trumpublicans, they kind of like that. The reason is it'll be a month or more from the 20th before Joe Biden can even get government up and running. Right? So there's that. Now, what's Trump going to do? You were on the conversation, Brian. Remember we were talking the other night. We had some friends on, and we were doing it through this kind of social e-cam kind of thing. And a person whose opinion I value very much, a lifelong Republican, who left the Republican Party the day Trump announced, not the day he became the candidate. The day he announced, and his name's JC. It's not Jesus Christ, but Jim said, and this is one idea. He said that Donald Trump will leave and fade out of politics and go back to being a businessman and doing what he did. And I respectfully disagree with him because it's my addiction junkie theory. He's going to have that adulation. He never got it as a billionaire. I would love to ask him this question. I'm being 100% serious. I would love to ask him this question. Does he feel more excitement having had sex with Stormy Daniels, or when he hears, which he says is 4 million people, but when he has 20,000 people screaming his name and following along, and I guarantee it's 20,000 people. So how does he maintain that? How does he get it? Well, what he does, as I say, he leaves and he does what it appears he wanted to do before he was president. He will either form his own network or go with an established network. It will not be Fox unless Fox agrees to let him run the whole network. I don't think it will be. I would look at Newsmax. I would look at Sinclair. I would look at OAN. I would look at him starting the Trump network. I mean, he'll want his name on it. And he'll use that for 4 years, making those stops and running. Of course, there's two things that could stop him from that. A conviction for any crime. Can't run for president. And of course, while I don't wish the death of anyone, when you're up at that area and as reckless as he is, his own death. I mean, he thinks he can run as long as he's only been dead a couple of years. But the last I knew, you can't run from president or run for president and succeed if you're dead. So the good news is, for those who want it tonight, Joe Biden will be president. Two pieces of bad news, though. The Trump administration, Trump and the Trumpublicans will make it almost virtually impossible for the new administration to succeed. They definitely will not succeed as quickly as they would. I'm assuming we'll talk later on the show about some of the ways that they're doing that. But the one that, if you really want to be kept awake at night, is this one. Despite the most there aren't even words to describe it, hideous, horrendous non-presidency in America's history, 73 million Americans say, I like that. I want some more of that. And they're not.
But they were always there, Dave, right? I mean, they were still always there.
Oh, they were always there. Well,
but well, maybe that's the question to ask you both. Is that
okay?
We know, and we've known that we've all discussed. All three of us discussed this before. That America has always been divided. We know that. We know that these types have been there. But is there something different about these 73 million now that's different than obviously before 2016? That's what I want to know. Are those
Ryan,
people
you're up
any
first,
different?
Ryan,
yeah, I think so. I said this a couple weeks ago, but I still think it's true. See, I think what happened was, if you look at the vote totals in 2016, Trump wins by, or loses the popular vote by about 3 million, but he wins the Electoral College. Now the votes now are like, what, 10 million more, something like that? Like
he's up by 6 million. He's up by 6 million.
Yeah, he's up by 6 million. Yeah, I know. Okay, so he's up by 6 million at this point. And I think what has happened is, how did Trump keep pace? Because, again, he has the second most votes in history. So while he lost, I mean, he beat every other president in history with that vote total. So what happened? Well, I think it's, number one, the fringe. He's emboldened the fringe.
That's the key.
People who don't vote are suddenly like, oh, I'm seeing my views reflected in the president of the United States. So they're voting. And then the reason Biden turned out so many more people is, I think there's a lot of people who are just tired of it. They're just tired of it. You got younger people. You have people that, I mean, just that's what I think. I think that, the good thing is there are more good people in America in 2016 and now, in terms of how many voted against Trump. And that number has grown on the number of people who voted against Trump, but so has Trump's number. And I think it's the fringe. That's who I think it is, because he has more votes than he did last time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
how about you, Dave?
Well, I think Ryan raises maybe the most key point for America's future. How many of people voted for Trump and will go back and not vote anymore? Right? We don't know. In other words, a true cult, if your cult member, if your cult leader goes off, you usually don't follow somebody else. So that's that we have to see. But what I've said all along, and I still believe it's true, the Republicans are not concerned about their Democratic opponents. Well, they are right now in Georgia, and I hope we talk a little bit about that later. But really what they're concerned about is being outrighted in a primary. So, this is true, but I'm just tired of hearing it. We shouldn't expect anybody to come out and say anything on the Republican side. It's not going to happen. There's no Barry Goldwater. There's no Hugh Scott from the previous days there. And it's not all just ego for them. I mean, we look at it that way. So, there's Harlan. No, there are many Republicans who believe in their philosophy. The Trump Republicans. They believe in it so much that they're willing to accept the lowest form of human slug as long as he follows. And they got a lot out of him. They did. The Supreme Court is more conservative. Christmas. Oh, we're not. He said, "Well, I'm going to order people say Merry Christmas." Whatever. From the real things. So I think he will know. I was a long time thinking he was an anomaly. I'm not so sure now. So, is Trump the wave, or a Trump type? The national is a Trump type the only type of Republican that can win nationally? And I'm thinking that may well be true. So do you get Trump light?
Right, because of the intensity that he has. He draws people in. He's a Svengali to these people.
Well, look, I for a long time I sold him short. I fell victim to that. He's an idiot. He's none of that. I don't say you don't have, people say, oh, you have to respect him for this. there is not jack shit you have to respect Donald Trump for. Not anything. But you do have to give, to grab a cliche, you do have to give the devil their due. Anybody who thought P.T. Barnum was the greatest con man in America or anyone else, nope. Everybody dropped down a notch. He has conned 73 million Americans into thinking that he is presidential, and if they follow him, they will be true patriots and the true Americans. And all it takes is one quick reading of any part of the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. You can't even get past the First Amendment without realizing Trump is as much American as Vladimir Putin is American.
Right. Hey, guys, I want to ask you this. And this is just something peculiar to me. Maybe I'm completely off base. But usually Bill Barr is heavily involved from time to time. But it's kind of strange though. I haven't really heard him get involved in the last 2 or 3 weeks at all. And usually you think that would be the point man at this point in time for whatever type of destruction he could do. Because there are 50 some days left. He's lost just about every single court case save for one. So I don't know what he has left in these last 50 some days, but I would think somewhere it might involve Bill Barr. Or is Bill Barr giving up?
Ryan, you want it first?
Sure. I think that, while we can always say, oh, it would look really bad if Bill Barr did this, and of course Bill Barr did a lot of things that looked really bad and they didn't care, but I think it would look really bad if Bill Barr started trying to do lawsuits overthrowing votes and stuff like that. I think that would be like, I just don't think even Bill Barr is going to cross that line.
Well, they say that somehow that Bill Barr, in what you're saying though, that some people think that Bill Barr isn't lockstep with Trump. He's just in lockstep with the idea that the executive should have, all-encompassing power. And maybe this isn't one where Trump really gets the break from Barr. Or maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think he is in lockstep with Trump personally. The guy is making him do all kinds of wacko stuff if he's not. How I just
you're not getting an argument from me. I hate Bill Barr.
I know. Yeah, you're right. I think that Bill Barr is absolutely in lockstep with Trump because he doesn't say anything against him. They're like I noticed that a lot of these elected Republicans, they are they go through this evolutionary period where when they're in office, they are invertebrates, and then when they start to get near the end of their political term, they start growing spines, like Jeff Flake, for example. And once he was out, he starts speaking out, and but even before he was fully out, he started speaking out because he knew his days were numbered. Well, Bill Barr knows his days are numbered right now, but he's not speaking out. So I think he's in lockstep with Trump. That's what I would offer.
Dave? What do you think?
Well, I think there's a lot of validity in what Ryan said. I'm going to come at it a little different way. Again, this is what's so crazy about this period. There's you can look at it, and I don't mean two sides. There's good on what is good people on both sides. I don't mean that. So those who have dismissed Trump, I'm talking about us, look at Barr sitting out as saying not that he's a good guy, but kind of what there's a line. Maybe he does have a line he won't cross. If not for himself, he realizes that there's a lot of attorneys in the Justice Department who don't agree with Trump. They're down on the food chain, but they're there. Maybe he does realize that this would be the thing that would stain him forever or stain the Justice Department forever. So that's the good side. Now, the worriers, and I don't mean you, Brian, but that type of person.
I am a worrier. Yeah, I am that.
Well, I know, but I'm saying here's what the worriers are worried about. When I say the worriers down here in Washington, they think Bill Barr is off planning something so off the radar that when he emerges, it'll be like Han Solo returning in Star Wars, to save Luke Skywalker, that kind of thing. And 73 million people. Hey, there's Billy. I knew he'd come through at the end. Take your druthers, right? I'm going to go with as you two, I'm not a Bill Barr fan. I'm really somewhat shocked that he went so far. I mean, he's in so deep. How do you get that? You know, I used the analogy this week. How do you get the shit off? How do you get the Trump shit off of you? I mean, literal shit. It's on there. But for whatever reason, I think he realizes it's over. Now, is he going to come out and say that? No. What I'm going to find interesting, my wife and I, who it's been interesting, this whole thing. She was always a liberal. She's voted every election. But we've actually worked. She's worked more elections than I have because when I was a reporter, I didn't work them, and when I was a teacher, I didn't work them. But she's become not as some are watching it to see what happens. She says, "I've got to learn more about this." So she does the quartet every night on NBC. Chris Hayes to Rachel Maddow to Lawrence O'Donnell to Brian Williams, and I give her credit. I can't sit through all four, so I might watch a few minutes of each. But she's looking at it and saying, "I don't get this," and I consider her like just a true real American. She doesn't like to speculate, so she's I don't get it. And every morning she gets we get the Washington Post here, and I know when she's read something, she said, "Oh my God," because it's insane. I mean, but here's the thing. It looks insane for Brian. I got an echo again.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it looks insane. Looks insane from the outside to a con man who loves chaos. It's almost like, and I don't give him more credit, but like it's almost like he's like Meshach, Abshach, or whatever the hell they were at Bendigo. The lion's den, and they emerge, and the fire comes out. Remember that? And he likes to see it that way. I survived. Listen how he describes COVID. Still a lot of echo, Rod. I don't know if you're hearing it.
I'm hearing the echo.
It should be off now.
It's gone now.
Yeah, it's gone. What happens is, as I say, in his mind, I guess the best way to say it, he wants to be a hero with doing nothing. He just thinks being Donald Trump is heroic, which is a little scary. So, Bill Barr, we'll end with this. Do I know? Of course I don't know. Again, two sides. I'm going to go with he has recognized this. He's going to sit it out. He's not going to say anything. You know who else won't say anything? Mitch McConnell publicly. Mitch McConnell won't say jack shit.
Oh, he ain't going to say anything.
No, because he needs those Trump supporters, not for himself. Man, if he runs again, what is he now? He's 112. He'll be like 118 and still looking like a turtle. But I mean, this is it for him. It's his swan song. But what he wants, well, let's see, Brian. You're going to represent the common man. What does Mitch McConnell want now? What do you think?
Well, first of all, he wants to make sure that the Senate stays in Republican control, so he is the leader of the Senate. That's obvious right there.
And that's it.
That's the first thing.
There you don't. No, there's no more. I mean, you can say other things.
Because as long as he can do that, then he can. Now, this isn't to go against you, Ryan, but he's really helped Kentucky because for every dollar that every Kentuckian gives in federal taxes, they're getting back a lot more than we're losing. And that's how he becomes popular. Maybe not. I'm sure not in Louisville, but outside of
Louisville. I mean, he does get Kentucky money. That's true, but hey, Keith, if you look at the reality of it, Eastern Kentucky is one of the poorest places in the entire country, and those are the people that support him. Yeah. I don't understand it. I mean, it's like he's
crazy.
Giving them money.
Too crazy.
I mean, think about it, Ryan and Brian. Ryan just said, the poorest. And that's shocking. The other one, I don't get. I mean, I get it because of demographics and who's there. They just did a study, assuming that the election is over, and it is. And Trump's biggest support came from the areas which are now experiencing the highest rate of coronavirus infection. Wow. So, Brian, before you came to Bridgeton High School, there was a football coach, and I happened to coach with him. And Bob Swick, whom you knew, was also a coach. And Swick didn't say many really bright things, but he did say one time,
He's in the chat room right now, by the way. He's pissed at you.
Yeah, I'm
just
sure.
kidding.
No, Swick would say, he came up with it when he said something. It's once in a while he really came up with one. This was great. One day, literally the whole staff walked off the field during a game because of Reich's decisions. I mean, it was that crazy. He was like the Donald Trump of football. Successful. We went to a couple state title games, lost. Swick said he started calling it Reichian. Almost sounds like German, right? Reichian logic. No sense makes sense, and that describes what we see as Donald Trump. That's what we see. No sense makes sense, but that's what we see. They see something else. Whether it's McConnell control of the Senate, I'm sure when they get together, he talks about, do you believe it, guys? And I don't know how much. I mean, I think he probably gives some credits out there. We in the minority party, we got. I think the count's up. Ryan, you're a better counter than I am. I think it's 101 federal judges, something like that.
It's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, close. That's pretty damn amazing. Now, here's the other part, though. People need to go back and look at these judges are just saying no to these faulty cases. Many of them, a couple were even Trump appointees, but many are Republicans. If you want something to feel good about tonight, everyone out there, remember, we haven't gotten to the Supreme Court yet, but the branch that's working best right now is the judicial branch at both the state and local levels.
Right.
So democracy is not completely broken. I mean, Joe Biden won. I read today something, and I think the sadness is we had like not even 24 hours to celebrate, right? And suddenly Trump's back in our lives.
He's back doing everything that you felt on that Saturday, where everybody was out celebrating. We were so happy. West Philly, every single liberal area in the country, it was just like you could breathe. And then what happens the next day? It's like Godzilla just comes back.
Well, there is a danger. There's always been a danger with the Republicans becoming the Trumpublicans. And one of the things I've been reading more about is, do you know who the most angry are about this? The legal actions being taken. And that's the black power brokers in predominantly black cities, which is just about every city in America. And that may work to liberals' advantage in the sense that that's who got, I mean, you could actually say black women saved Joe Biden in South Carolina, and black men and women made him president. And if they become, they are a voting bloc, but if they really do that, it'd be pretty hard, right? Take Detroit. I mean, of course you take Detroit out of Michigan. You get a different vote, but it's the same. Pennsylvania. The only, I don't know. That's something I'm just going to say something now. I don't know if I'm right. So anybody out there, correct me. I think the only state I might live in the only state. Certainly we have, Trumpians, but where we don't have a large black, Richmond has a relatively large black population, but not to the New York or Baltimore, where you can sway a whole state.
Dave, you want to get this, by the way, just keep an eye on that question with a good question from Keith.
Here. Oh no, I got it. Keith, basically, because we don't, when I say we, I'm talking about all Americans in general, we don't really understand the electoral college. But basically what happens is this. Yes, the selectors who go to the college are the ones who actually vote, right? But they vote according to pretty much in all the states, according to what the state decided. So let's use Georgia, which is kind of crucial. Everybody who goes, they've already announced, Brian will chest show this. They've already announced who will be a chairperson of that committee. Any idea who will it be? Brian, Ryan, anybody?
I'm sorry, I just fell off a cliff. You
I know,
Georgia. Who will be the
head
chairperson
for that? Yes. Any idea?
Abrams.
You got it.
Yeah.
Now, every elector who goes from Georgia will be a Democrat. A ranking Democrat. And that's the same in most states. So a lot of people think, oh, they can do whatever they want. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. They had in some states they have the right to do that, but that won't happen. That's why, guys. That's why there was this seemingly stupid pressure to get Michigan, to hold, because once Trump is declared in Michigan, not only what is it, I don't know how many votes did he say, what, 18, I think, or something, whatever it is there, they will all be Democrats. They're not going to throw their vote to anybody else.
Right. But what okay, I get that, Dave. But gentlemen, what if, we don't really know, we know that the guy's sick. The question is how sick is he? Let's suppose that it has really bad mental issues, whatever you want to call it. He's psychotic,
Okay.
Whatever it is. If he really is that sick, don't we really still have something to worry about between now and January?
Brian, you got to. I'm not picking on you. Please be specific, because we don't, in general, worries in general don't mean anything. What I'm telling
Okay,
you,
well, okay, for
worries
example.
are specific.
Okay.
Right, what's a specific worry? You have to represent yourself.
Let's just take
Go ahead.
this logically for a second, okay? And maybe
right.
I'll just zoom in here on myself, only because I have to think this through here. So he sees that the court cases aren't going the right way. I think already at 31 out of 32, and his victories were just something ridiculous. It's not really, wasn't going to change anything. And then he sees that, you're going to see these states start certifying, okay? And then that starts going against him, okay? In my opinion, if he is that sick, and if Fox is still willing, we know that OAN and Newsmax will, if they're still willing to play this game, does he go the route? I know this is going to sound sick, but
There's nothing you can say about him that would sound sick.
Yeah, well, does he go the insurrection route? He'll say this is an illegal government, even though we know that it's legal. Could he do that if he's that? Remember, we're saying now that maybe he is really, he's a psychopath.
Well, I think even if he did, you have to look at who's voting for him. A whole lot of old people are voting for him, and I mean, I'm just saying, like,
No,
I'm
you're right.
picturing-
No.
I'm picturing people in the streets gunning people down. Okay, Trump supporters versus everyone else, whatever. Show me your Trump sign or I'm shooting you. That kind of, world. It's like most of these people are not younger people. Most of a whole lot of them aren't going to be mobile people. I don't think that most of the people that voted for Trump are going to be capable to organize and become violent in a way that is, I don't believe that that's going to be possible. Now, would Trump try it? I wouldn't put it past him. I could see it as his end game.
He could get the military, Ryan. Don't you think he would do it?
No,
If he could. He won't. Right.
No.
But he would try it, though.
You know what? I can try right now.
I agree with you.
Let me make my analogy. I can open this window behind me. I'm on the 10th floor, and I can try to fly. You know what's going to happen?
Okay, fine. But let's suppose you've got, 5, 10 generals, whatever, and he gets one that's willing to do something.
Okay. Can 90% of the armed forces beat 10% of the armed forces?
No, they can't, obviously, but they can cause problems.
Brian,
Look, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying the man is sick.
No, you're saying what a lot of people say, and
You're saying he's going to capitulate?
No, what I'm saying
he ain't going to capitulate.
No, what I'm saying is this: there are real problems that we need to worry about in America that center around Donald Trump, his administration, the Trumpublicans who were elected, and the 73 million. Right, that voted for him.
And don't forget the media too. Remember, he's got a propaganda arm. He's got three now. He's got three.
But none of those, in and of themselves, are working together, can make Donald Trump president. Now, I'm going to take it a step further. I wish he would try insurrection and say, everybody who's with me, wear blue for the rest of your lives, and all of a sudden, we know who they are. We're not going to fight in the streets, kids. We're not. There's going to, what it would be, if that happened, I will tell you exactly what would happen. President Joe Biden would figure out a military way the problem becomes that the United States Army and all the Navy, Air Force, United States forces are not supposed to fight against Americans, right? But we've never had American insurrectionists. They certainly fought against Americans in the Civil War, right? So I think, would he try it? See, there's one thing difference, Bry, between there's nothing that Donald Trump wouldn't try. The question is, would it succeed? And then it's back to his motive.
Can you address this real quick? Because you did do this. You addressed this last week, Dave. But it's again for Veg.
Yes,
Veg is
okay.
from Canada.
Veg,
Hi, Veg.
great question. Again, it's a complex question. But basically this, and then if you still have a question, ask it again. There are two things going on in the military. All right. You have the generals, and they rise up through the ranks, usually through West Point, groomed, and they're there, and they're the commanders, right? They give the orders, but overseeing them, because remember when America was established, Americans didn't want an army. That's the last thing they wanted, because they were fearful of what the British Army had done. So they
have
wanted
such
some
a small one now.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. They wanted civilian control, right? So yes, those people Trump is appointing have civilian control, and what they can do is they can determine budget. They can't determine troop deployment. They can't determine whether the troops got used for war or not. Those will be decisions from the generals. Now, where it gets a little tricky is there is a non-general general who's supposed to be the what we call him. What's the biggest one? Summa cum laude, summa cum laude, and that would be Donald Trump as commander in chief. But I've said it all along. I believe this is as truthful as I can say.
Does Pompeo have any ins with the Pentagon?
Not the same as
I would find him to be
generals.
dangerous only because he was the West Point guy.
You know why he's not. You know why he's not dangerous.
I don't.
What do you think Pompeo wants more than anything else?
Well, he wants to be senator in Kansas, one of the senators in Kansas.
No, he wants to be president of the United States.
Oh gosh, I really hope he doesn't want that.
Yeah, he does. I'm serious.
That's sickening.
Now, so what he's going to want? He's in an interesting position.
I think he should become a senator first, Dave, before he
Now,
becomes president.
think about this, guys, and you're going to see this play out in the
Trump
next
didn't.
60 days and
true.
maybe for the next 4 years. You're walking a very thin line if you're a Republican. And what I mean by that is, and you want what Trump has. Okay? You can't win it without Trump's people. But if Trump wins it, it's gone. So they will play a game where sometimes they will say things that sound crazy. That's directed to an audience of Trump's people. But they will not do things. They'd be very happy. Any Republican who wants to be president of the United States does not want Donald Trump to return this time. Because at that point, whoever is his vice president, whether it be Tucker Carlson, whether it be Mr. Pence, it doesn't matter whom, they have the leg up then to be the next president, right? Also, and they would all deny this, but it's true of the political game. They're very pleased that with Joe Biden's selection, because they think maybe the only chance of beating the Democrats would be against a woman and against a minority, an African American, and against an immigrant. She checks those three boxes, right? So these people are jockeying for position, and it's really hard. I get some of this from being a reporter. You get some of it from living here. Look, there's only one rule in politics, and that rule is win. And if you're not running, there's only one rule: power. That's where the funding comes in, right? And the only thing that saves us is most people prior to the last few years, and it precedes Trump a little bit, have had lines that they would not cross, even for them. And Trump has none. Now, Keith, can I address Keith's, because that's something I've been thinking about a lot. And it's something that we all need to think about.
You could do a whole show on this.
I'm going to try to keep me short, but here's basically what it is. Biden has a difficult choice. and I go back and forth. Okay. The only time similar thing in American history that we would have was Gerald Ford's pardoning of Richard Nixon. Different time, different circumstances. At the time, I was what would I have been 24? Was it 74? 20 some, still a radical, still on the streets, and I was horrified and thought it was wrong. The older I get, the more I realized that was the right thing for America. It really was. Nixon's crimes, they were bad. Trump on his worst day probably commits 9 to 10 crimes against America every single day. So, do you pardon him? Well, there's that reach out.
Well, Dave, can I interrupt for a second? Because
sure.
And I don't want you to go too far with this, and Ryan, you'll chime in. Right. During, and because Veg just said that, Biden won't do anything. Biden technically, I don't think will do anything, because he says he would leave it up to, the Attorney General, and that's the right thing to do. Now the question is, of course, you could say, I'm sure the question would come out from out in internet land. Well, who is the person he's going to select, and is that person,
yes,
going to be leaning?
But I may be off.
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Well,
that she'll go after him. Maybe you want to do that. Let her go after him.
Doug Jones, you got all kinds. No, I think Vegematic's question, and Vegematic, if I get this wrong, I think she was saying something a little different, meaning he won't do anything.
Veg is a he, by the way.
Okay, but what would happen is, the question is, will he pardon him? Now, in a way, it's immaterial whether he pardons him or not.
Right.
Because you cannot be pardoned for crimes. He can only pardon him for federal crimes. Right? So the state goes on, only the governor of New York or Delaware or Iowa. Let's say he committed crimes in Iowa. He's going to get a pardon from Iowa, but he's not going to get one from New York. He's just not. Now, here's the interesting one. And he has brought this up, so we're not just making up. He is considering pardoning himself. That is truth. Now, there's a huge legal question. Can that be done? And again, all this is divided down. There's legal opinions, yes, he can. There's legal opinions, no, he can't. If he were smart and he only had federal crimes, but he can't, I shouldn't say that's wrong. I'm sorry. Let me take that back. If he didn't have the narcissism that he has, he would actually resign, and Pence would pardon him, and he would go out. He can't do that. He won't do that. I don't.
Well, he won't do that emotionally, because, that would mean Pence is president and he's not.
Correct. So and also remember, if my theory is correct, Donald Trump, like I said, doing 3 things right now. Yeah, if he can keep the presidency, I think even in his mind that ship has sailed. How much damage can he do to the incoming administration? We'll find out, and it's a hell of a lot between now and then. Not the least of which is shutting down the federal government. Not the least of which, Bob Woodward addressed it the other night. Joe Biden said basically, what will happen? If we don't get more people can die. Bob Woodward said no, more people will die. Trump obviously doesn't care. He doesn't. How do you not care as a human being? How do you not care as president of the United States? He doesn't. So, and then that third thing is, and we don't know where his priorities are, but I do know he can con himself very well too. So this is how I think it will play out. He will never acknowledge.
Dave, could you just tilt your camera down just a little more so your rest? There you go. Perfect.
I think what he'll do is this. He will never acknowledge his defeat, and that would mean he will never concede, and he won't not go to the inauguration. He will claim it is stolen from him. The reason is, you look at him, he's that consummate victim. It's always somebody else. It's never his fault. It plays into everything he does. And based on that, he will come out and, as I say, put together a 4-year plan to run for president. And that complicates now Biden's decision, because there's legal arguments on both sides that a pardoned person, some say no, and this part is true. You have to admit you did the crimes in order to get a pardon. They can't just give you a pardon, right? you could admit to a minor crime, but you have to admit to, and then would that preclude him from being president, or could a pardoned person come back? So every day these decisions change. But I'm saying, I think he now, if I go up there, guys. I go up there with. I always have his name on my shirts. Maybe he doesn't like what else comes after. He never invites me in, so I can find this stuff out. But again, looking at what he wants, he doesn't want the presidency now. He wants to come back. He wants to be this. He'll get all those crowds. The crowds will not drop. They may grow for him. He'll be the aggrieved party. And think about this. If he makes it almost impossible for the Biden administration to succeed, and he's certainly making it more difficult every day, that increases his chances of coming back, doesn't it?
Right. But doesn't
well,
it look
we know
now,
they're going to do everything they can to prevent the administration from having any success, because that's what they did to Obama.
Right. And that's right, Ryan.
This time they have experience, though.
Yeah,
don't they? The one good thing is it looks like, first of all, Biden's getting just some super people there, head to toe. They're going to have great people there, and they know what they've done. The Republicans have done in the past. Doesn't it look like he'll do his version of executive orders and try to milk that?
Yes, of course. But it's still very hard, because here's the difference one of the differences between Joe Biden,
Don Pardo. That's funny, Gary.
Yeah, and Donald Trump. Joe Biden wants to do the right thing. Donald Trump wants to do the best thing for Donald Trump. So Biden will tend to be a little cautious, right? I mean, he'll do the right, but eventually he'll come around the right thing. But he's not going to jump like Trump does. So he needs more time. Now, the good thing is, Joe Biden has spent twice the number of calendar days in the White House as vice president as Donald Trump did as president. And you start subtracting the golfing days and the fact that he only put in 2 days of work in 4 years. I mean, I'm just saying total number. And what would be horrific and put them behind, Trump not giving them the national security briefings that they need. But the nice thing is, there's no better informed senator just because she was on the National Security Committee than Kamala. So they have a lot of what they need. What they don't have is the money. The other thing is the vetting process, which we haven't even talked about yet. It's going to be very difficult to get anybody to the left of center through if the Republicans control the Senate. So tonight, I haven't said it. I've been waiting. This is the proper moment. Everybody out there, tell everybody, if you want to stop Donald Trump, the Trumpublicans, the conservatives, the evangelicals, the Proud Boys, take all the money you can spare and send it to the two Democratic candidates in Georgia. If you like one better than the other, send them to both, to that one. If you don't, send them to both. Whatever. If you have time to volunteer, contact Georgia and say, is there anything I can do? Phone calls, whatever. Because of course, it comes down to those two votes.
Right. By the way, Dave, I'm going to stop you there again, because we had discussed this before, and I'm with you about the two votes. Stuttering John Melendez had his show again. He had Hal Sparks on again, and that came up, that idea. But Hal Sparks said, we can win one, and we'd have the independents, and everybody in the chat. There were a lot of people who said, no, absolutely not. It doesn't work that way. John Melendez said to him, and Hal's a smart guy, and said, look, they're saying you can't do it, and he says, no, you can't. So I don't know.
No, you're following again. I'm saying if you're following a smart guy, and Sparks is smart, he is wrong in this. Here's what happens: there are not 50. I'm sorry, what is it? 48. What? Okay, I'm blanking here for a minute.
So it's 50 to 48 now. That Angus King is an independent.
Now, as declared parties, right? There's 50 declared Republicans, 46 declared Democrats, and 2 independents.
Okay.
And both independents, you can't do anything as an independent. So they pick a party once they get there. And both of those, Bernie Sanders and, picked it. And I forget who the other gentleman is. And they picked it. So that's basically it. So Sparks was, no, there's no other senators to pull. They're all committed. So it's 2 or none. And just so everyone's clear, then it's 50-50. And the tie-breaking vote goes to the vice president, who will be Kamala Harris. So I don't know. I in my knowledge, and I don't know if there's ever been a Senate race in the United States of America more important than the one in Georgia. It is as important as the presidential race.
Well, let me ask both of you this.
Angus King, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Angus King,
Ryan?
I think, is the other independent.
It is.
Right.
You're right. It is Mr. King. You're right. Thanks, Ryan.
And I love Angus King. He's a good guy. But I want to get back to the election in Georgia. If there's going to be any type of chicanery with the Republicans, because now they're sweating it out. I mean, literally, some of them are actually sweating because they have COVID. Got grass. I don't know how. By the way, I don't know how these Republicans keep surviving. They don't even need a vaccine. They are the vaccine. The Republicans.
Well, money
they don't
is
get
the
sick.
cure.
Except for Carson, they said he was in trouble for a while.
And Christie. But you know what? America still runs on money. And there's not a Republican senator who doesn't have money, and they're going to get the best care. And, some indigent tonight, a mile from the White House, is going to get COVID. And
right, and he's got to wait to get in the hospital where they don't have to wait.
And that's, we'll work on that money end after Biden gets in.
But again, don't you think that if there's going to be any chicanery with Republicans, aside from what Trump's doing right now in the courts, which by the way, to me is chicanery, what he's doing and what Lindsey Graham did in Georgia, they should be in prison. It's unconstitutional.
Well,
it's
the
traitorous.
I would say of the two, Trump is more dangerous, but certainly what Mr. Graham did, and I use the term Mr. Loosely, what Lindsley did is definitely treasonable. But he's claiming now that it was just a friendly senatorial call. There is no such thing as a friendly senatorial call.
And then, of course, they said Trump in Michigan. They said it was simply he was asking if I felt safe or something like that. Ridiculous.
Well, they hide behind it. But look, again, it's fair. Now, Brian, to offset yours, maybe some of your fears, there's a hero in Georgia who was kind of unexpected, and that is the Secretary of State of Georgia.
The Republican, and they said he's out on an island.
Now notice what Trump did, right? He attacked him. Notice what both Republican candidates did. They attacked him. He gave a brilliant reasoning. I don't know if you heard it. It was very short and succinct of why he did what he did. He said, I am a Donald Trump supporter. I believe in what he's brought. He has represented the party, but I am a man of numbers, and the numbers say that he did not win, and I will go with that. So I don't think there can be the chicanery that was there with Governor Kemp when he stole, and I feel relatively safe saying it, when he was Secretary of State and stole the gubernatorial election from Stacey Abrams.
He certainly did.
But here's the other side of that. Right now, I would take Stacey Abrams as my organizer anywhere, right? And that's her home state. If anybody can get people out, she's going to do it. So you've got like your best there. You've got your best Republican overseeing the votes, right? That we've seen. And then you've got two senatorial candidates who certainly, while they may represent the racist South and whatever, they both have financial problems. I mean, most. Well,
can you think of it, gentlemen? Like, for example, you've been talking about Stacey Abrams, Dave. Here you had, was it Jim Clyburn, who really kind of helped Biden survive. Now, if Stacey Abrams should, push those two candidates, can you imagine? Like, first of all, that'd be amazing. But you can imagine the racists on the other side, because they're not. The African Americans in this country have obviously saved this country so far. I mean, in terms of
yes, they did two things. They built.
And we all are part of it, but they're the ones who, without them, we don't win.
It's very simple. They built this They built this country by being slaves, and now, instead of being embittered, though they are, instead of being treated as second, third, fourth, fifth class citizens, even after their freedom, They came forward and said, they don't say it. See, I like that. They don't say it. They just did it, right? They saved us from Donald Trump, and every person owes, the black community where they live, or the black, in that area or wherever, just a thank you. I mean, we couldn't have done it without them, but it's even more than that. I mean, it wasn't just we couldn't have done it. It's not, I know
Right. Well, now, but now, obviously Georgia's going to be it. It's going to have to be like a complete, full-fledged, 95% African American vote. That's going to be the only thing that can push these two candidates over.
I mean, again, a lot of things work against that in that sense. I mean, traditionally, all off races that aren't with the president, you don't turn out. I was just reading briefly, so I didn't write it down, but briefly, Georgia has because of the way they're set up, they don't really have a big turnout in these kinds of runoffs, right? But you got to remember, with the virus and Trump, they're talking about the virus. I don't know if they're doing it in Kentucky, Ryan. They're doing it up here. They call it the before time, which would have been any time in history up to March of 2019, and then the the after time. So, and then you could do the same. You could do the same thing. You could call it BT, before Trump. We're not in the after Trump yet, and we're not in the after virus yet. So I think a lot of these things that we all took not just for granted, but as kind of rock rib truths. The president would concede if he lost. I mean, that was I never thought until Donald Trump came in that would happen. That with what people dying and the world leaders meeting, where does he go to play golf? That's bad enough. Where does he go to play golf? At the club he owns in Virginia. How much did that club make today for him? A lot of damn money. So now it's interesting. Will Trump, what do you guys think? Will Trump campaign in Georgia? Will Biden campaign in Georgia? Will they send surrogates? Will they stay out of it? What do you think? I don't know. I mean,
Ryan, you go first.
I think they can't afford to stay out of it because we know what happens. I mean, Merrick Garland knows what happens when you don't focus on the Senate when you need to.
Right.
I definitely think that they need to campaign. They need to do everything they can because you know who is going to campaign. Trump. He will definitely be there talking about something or other. It might not be,
Oh no, absolutely.
I mean, I'm just saying, like they're definitely going to be doing that. So, yeah, I definitely think that they need to, pay attention. I actually know two people from Georgia very well. Both are Republicans. One of them, diehard Trump supporter, thinks everyone has cheated and that kind of thing. The other one did not vote for Biden. However, I'm sorry, he did not vote for Trump. Right. However, he also didn't vote for Biden. So in a runoff, he would absolutely vote for Republicans. So I do think that the runoff in Georgia is going to be a lot harder than the presidential race was. Not that those two people are representative of everything, but I do know a lot of those voters who were Republicans or conservatives who just couldn't stomach voting for Trump will have no problem voting for some other Republican who's just running for the Senate. So I think it's going to be a harder race than it's not going to be close, as close as it was.
Well,
what do you think, Brian?
Here's what I think. First of all, let's suppose over the next 2 or 3 weeks, it looks like Trump has no avenue, to get the presidency, which you've already said he doesn't, right? And he's a guy who really doesn't care about the presidency in terms of doing the job. He wants the presidency, but doesn't want to do the job. He doesn't really care that he's a Republican. So why would he want to help out these two Republicans if he really doesn't care anyway? So I'm not so sure he'd be the one that would be. I would say you'd probably see Pence go there first before you'd see Trump. And then you'd see maybe some other big-time senator. I don't know. I don't think Trump would get that involved.
Here's an interesting thing. I was just sitting here thinking as you two, and both of you had, differing but very well thought out positions. I was thinking this. Let's suppose, we've already agreed that the African American vote is crucial. Certainly in the South, it determines states.
It's make or break with the African American vote.
Certainly in Georgia,
the way it goes.
Well, suppose that it was decided that, you needed a black coordinator. Well, they've got one in Stacey Abrams. I don't know who's coordinating the Georgia movement, but I guarantee you that person's not black. Okay.
Correct.
Now, let's suppose that you want to send the ranking figure you can in your administration there. That gets to you, Brian. You send Pence.
You probably send Pence, right?
And who would Biden send? Who's the ranking person?
Kamala Harris.
And there you are. So from that edge, but then I'm back. I think Ryan is really hit it right there. The one thing we can't do is use the presidential race as a barometer there, because you will get, it's one thing to look at Donald Trump and say he's okay. 73 million Americans did. But it's another thing. A lot of people didn't, Republicans, and they will vote. And what kind of thing? I mean, this is, again, if not if it were fair, but Ossoff debates Purdue, eats him up, and Purdue, what does he do? He refuses to debate anymore.
Right. And you think about it, like look at all the crap that's going on. We got Kyle Rittenhouse who just got out on bail. In any other time period, the opposing party would be so upset. They say, that's it. We're going to go out and we're going to vote, over something even like that, or from George Floyd. You would think that by now everybody knows how crucial this is. Like, you just can't say, okay, I'm not against any of you guys here. I'm just saying it just doesn't seem logical to me that, you'd go fire and brimstone, for the presidential election, but then the senatorial, I think they have to. I think we have to see this as the same thing. It's all part of one big thing, and you've got to do it.
I'm not
like you said,
that.
Everybody's got to start sending bucks down there. I mean,
now,
or whatever.
Yeah, that's true, Brian, can you vote in Georgia?
Unfortunately, I can't.
I can't. Ryan, can you?
No, but I know two people who will. So I'm winning.
You've already said how they'll vote. We got to cancel them out some way. You got to talk to them. Offer them something. Yeah. Tell them you lose. You're a really good chess player.
I can only talk to one of them. The other one, he will not listen to me. He will not listen.
But I'm kind of laughing, but that's true. So there's an old saying that all politics is local. There's some truth to that. So this is in Georgia's hands. So what can we do? Send them money, offer help. Ryan, I'm going to ask you to do something that's very hard to do. I'm going to ask you to speak for the entire South, since the entire South. You're in.
All right. I'll get ready.
I could do that. I remember I could do that too. My daddy was from Texas, so I got some Southern blood in me. But no, here's the thing. Talk about the Kentucky Republicans, and then by implication, the others, because it's been a pretty solid Republican South. Do Democratic voters or Republican voters welcome the Yankees or outsiders in to tell them how to vote? In other words, or is that counterproductive, or how do you see that?
I mean, in my experience, just growing up, I grew up in a Republican household, and I didn't know it until I was midway through college. We didn't talk about politics in the house. It's just the way the world needs to be a certain way, and that's it. There was no, this is what our political beliefs are, son. That didn't happen. And that's largely the experience of a lot of the people that I know. They didn't talk about politics, at least the conservative people talk about politics. Now, a lot of my friends who grew up liberal or Democratic or just basically not conservative, including libertarian and other things, their families do talk about politics a lot more. And, I think that a lot of the people who, are going to vote for, or who did vote for Trump, or who may or may not vote for these Republicans in Georgia, I just think that it's completely different growing up. And, I don't think the political identity is as solid. It's not rooted in facts and science. It's rooted in faith and money. If you can,
and you know what, that is so crucial. That we have to figure out how that, and I'm going to take it even a step further, that their reality is rooted in faith, right? Really. And our reality is rooted in science. And it's pretty hard to, if religion says, it was Adam, and, they pulled his rib out, and then there was Eve, and then there was a serpent and an apple and all that. You say, well, no. It was kind of things were in the sea and then emerged onto land and then began to crawl and then became sort of monkey-like and then became man. Well, not much middle ground there, right? And I think again, at the risk of stereotyping, I think the South is more faith-based. It was in the Civil War. It's never changed, really. But what is changing now is Atlanta is no longer the South. Charlotte is no longer the South. The lost state is Florida. It would be best if we could just cut Florida and let it float.
And Virginia, you could probably say the same thing.
Well, Virginia is no more the South at all. I mean, but again, if something should happen to us Northerners in Northern Virginia, you leave. I mean, you drive 30 minutes. It's the South, man.
I was going to say, regarding Florida and chopping it off, we could organize the 40 million Democrat march and just give shovels. We just all, we just go down there.
That would be that,
let the ocean kind of go through like a canal.
Somebody was saying to me, another. I have a lot of friends who liked it. I call it discussing. My wife says we're idiots arguing, and they said, "Why are you writing all Florida?" I said, very simply, I said, it's always going to be a haven for older people. Right, they'll go there
for retirement.
Even if they're sinking into the sea, they'll go there, right? And in general, at least to the current lifetime, older people tend to vote more conservative as they get older. So that's one thing that Florida has. Secondly, and this is a mistake that Anglos make. We generalize and we say the Latino or the Hispanic population, very different where you come from. Cuba they are just as much ingrained in republicanism as the 7th generation or 8th generation Southerners, because they feel that, that most of them came because of Castro. The first wave was because he took their property, so they're going to be bitter forever. The second wave, the criminals, but there were also people who had complaints against Castro. And so you say the Republicans have been very effective in Florida, equating Democrats with socialists and communists. Then you add a lot of the people coming from Central America are fleeing, or Venezuela are fleeing socialist regimes. That's always going to be, they're going to settle there. And then the factor is, I did spend 14 months living in Georgia, so I'm not an expert. But I know Georgians said, look, don't ever drive across the Georgia-Florida border, because them people, there's some hillbillies down there. So that northern Florida, I mean, they're more southern.
Yeah, they're like Georgia. Yeah.
When you're more southern than Georgia, outside Atlanta, and people agree to that. So that's why I don't see that. But I do see actually North Carolina. We've seen Georgia just because of the size of cities. I mean, living in Atlanta, there was no difference between, when I say around the population base, than living in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, any large city in the north. And we'll see. So you've got all these things going. It'll be interesting. This may be, I don't want to put too much pressure on Georgia, but if you don't vote right, you're going to take the country down. No, but this is a kind of interesting doesn't apply when you're really looking at the future of at least the Democrats and Joe Biden's administration for the next 4 years. But it's going to be kind of interesting. You see, this is going to be that battle. There's a time it was done. We wouldn't even be sending money down there, right?
Well, could there be anything that Trump does that actually can really backfire? Let's suppose he does something absolutely horrendous. Do you think that could actually help the Democratic candidates in the next month? You got till January. Maybe he'll. Because again, both of you have said that he's going to do something.
Well, I definitely think he'll do something. He would have to be like getting Bill Barr involved with counting votes and stuff, or trying to throw votes out, stuff like that. That's quite egregious. And I think that even if you're a Trump supporter, the thought has to occur to you: do you really want the Democrats to do this too down the line? Like, I just think there is.
They won't let us do it down the line if they get control. That's what I'm saying.
Well, of course. I mean, if they're going to do
that'll
it,
be not right too.
We'll do it too. But
we lose everything.
But I think that Trump he's pretty much done everything you could imagine that is egregious and horrible as the president, and people still support him. So I don't think anything that he does will do anything. Possibly what other people do, maybe, but not Trump. Trump can get away with
and
shooting
I'm going to
someone
say
on wherever. You know, he said that.
there was a couple interesting articles this week in the Washington Post about the black community and the vote, and the leaders in the black communities are. I mean, they know the code words. They weren't talking about overturning votes in Pennsylvania. They were talking about overturning black votes in Pennsylvania,
Right,
and all these states. They were talking about overturning black votes in Detroit, and they're aware of this. So, does that energize, the black community? And you know what I should have tonight? And I promise, before we do another show, I want to know the racial demographics of the voting public in Georgia. How many are white, how many are black, and what the total population.
Census.gov has that. We can get.
Yeah,
that.
I know it does. But the thing that's interesting too is, another place that is the real battleground for votes. One of the last battlegrounds is the suburbs, right? Suburbs began to go with Reagan, Bush. Began to pull away from the Democrats. Went with Trump in 2016. Those projections would be that they were all going to turn away from them, basically. The soccer moms and that kind of thing. I don't think
I've got the demographics here if you want them.
Great.
Oh yeah, give them. So go.
57.8%. This was according to 2019 U.S. Census. It's 57.8% white and non-Hispanic, and the breakdown was 51.8% non-Hispanic white and 5.9% Hispanic white, and then 31.9% Black or African American, 4.1% Asian, 3%. It breaks it down, but all the rest of them are very.
There's
very
enough
small
there. If more whites, if you get 20% of the whites, 30% of the whites to vote for their Democratic
you'd only need
candidates,
20.
You'd be okay.
And again, of course,
no,
but you have to have
or you need about 25%.
Yeah, and do those?
And they have to come out too.
We don't have those figures, and
we don't use registered.
How many of those people vote? Right? I mean, vote regularly, or will come out, or whatever. That's the problem. Whenever you look at demographics, it doesn't matter if you have 100 million potential Democratic voters and 3 come out, and you have 4 Republicans. You win 4-3. Let's see what Gary's got in his mind. Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, what did he do today? I see his comment, but I don't know what Trump did or what Mnuchin did.
I don't know.
He hurt small businesses today by having Mnuchin take back the cash. So in other words,
I have a small business, so I want to know.
Well, it says here he hurt the small by taking back the cash. It's an issue.
Gary's right. What happened was, if I understand it correctly, is it's going to expire with nothing in its place, and this money was going to small businesses, federal money, just like unemployment. I mean, there's going to be the number of people below the poverty level on January 1st versus December 31st is going to be astronomical, because that's when the aid runs out. Nothing's there.
All the student loan groups on Facebook, everybody's like, okay, so all the protections for student loan people are going to be expiring soon. And it's like, does the government really expect all these student loan borrowers to be paying back suddenly? It's not like they all suddenly got jobs again. I mean, it's going to be horrible.
Well, it is. Horrible. I mean, and we throw these words around, horrible, and then you go to the thesaurus and grab abysmal and abominable and all this. Mm-hmm. They're just words, right? But these situations involve people, and it's one thing. It's one thing for me to sit here, as I've said before, to be upper middle class. I've always been upper middle class. Barring anything unforeseen, I'll leave the planet upper middle class. Now, not upper middle class, but certainly I was, when I was raised in that demographic. And so, I've been pretty secure. But I think what I try to do, which is the difference, I know it's the difference between me and Trump. I worry about what others have too, because, I just believe this is truth. If there were no poverty in America and nobody was ill in America, and you probably wouldn't have as much crime, and I might be able not to have to lock my doors in that kind of ideal world. So I think it's just self-preservation sometimes that we don't, that we maybe it comes from living 1, 2, 3 buildings down from Jeff Bezos's first building here. that I can see. I mean, there's a lot of difference between Jeff Bezos and me, but there's even more difference between me and the homeless man that I was talking to last night, who lives on a bench right within 2 blocks of what will be Bezos's first building. So, and there's more of those closer to the bench than there is me, and there's certainly more of me's than there are Bezos's. But they've got some money, and then that's something else. This divided we stand. That's why this will never end.
Right. That's what we were always worrying. Dave and I privately have been saying, like, what do we end in November when Biden wins? How about? But it looks, and this isn't. We're not playing any games here. We didn't have to do this kind of thing here, but this country is so torn apart. It's literally on fire, politically speaking. So we have to continue this.
Living go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say part of the problem too is I don't want to see the presidency turn into I'm going to undo everything my predecessor did.
Absolutely.
Like that is the most petty crap in the world. Like I totally understand. You get in office, you undo a few things. Pretty much every president has done some form of that. I understand, but the extent to which Trump did this is just nuts. And I just don't think that I really don't want to see the Trump or the presidency turn into this, let's control Z everything or undo everything, for 4 years. And that's what my concern is, because obviously Biden's in a position now where he has to undo a lot of crap.
Right.
He has to. And
yeah, you're right. I mean, I hold those same kinds of things with the Constitution and
climate change.
The amendments.
Is perfect for that.
I don't want to see us have a new Constitution with every administrative change, but there's just a part of me, and a big part of me, that says that was written a long time ago, and it was written in a historical period that's very much different than this, and it's lasted fairly well, but it's not lasting so well right now. It's really not.
Right.
The Supreme Court, I mean, again, to me, that's the most bizarre ruling ever, that corporations are people and they tied in with free speech. Really? Ruth Bader Ginsburg said the two worst things that happened in her lifetime was that decision, or on a time in the Supreme Court, I wouldn't say in her lifetime. And, excuse me, the fact that nobody can get a hold of gerrymandering. And she said that's just as bad, if the Democrats have it. I think at one point, and again, Ryan, you're a stats man. I think I read, this was 2 elections ago, so it would have been the Trump presidential, not the midterm. I think at that point there were 7 districts that every time could be competitive, right? That's 7 districts in the country.
I'll agree with that.
You know what I mean? And that's unbelievable. How do you get change with, how do you get people out? Nunez gets in and he stays forever unless he. And what would you do?
They say he might run for senator in California.
I think he'd get killed in that.
He'd get killed, absolutely.
He'll
still get 4 or 5 million votes, but he'll get killed. Oh, yeah,
but that state is very much. I mean, there are certain states, and I don't know that this is fair. Okay, I don't. New York and California, barring something that I can't foresee, are Democratic strongholds until I leave the planet.
Right.
You add Texas to that. How are you going to win if you're a Republican? Yeah. Now, I kind of like it the way the Republicans are turning out, but if I were a true conservative, what would you say? There used to be Republicans that were socially liberal, fiscally conservative. Not too many anymore. But if you were, I mean, you're just going to give that up. Brian, you live in a similar situation. Well, not in Upper Deerfield, but Bridgeton, the city. I don't know that Jesus Christ could win in that city as a Republican.
Right.
In the city of Bridgeton, with the demographics.
In the county, it's so. I mean, Jeff Van Drew, the traitor, won.
And back and forth, and so, I'm going to kind of start.
We're telling everybody in the South to vote the right way, and we can't even vote right in the county here. And of course, Jesus Christ, I'm telling everybody what to do, and I can't win in my own county. God
listen to what we're saying, guys. We're talking about voting right and voting correctly and voting wrong. And for the first time in my life, I think it's okay to say that.
Right.
Up until then, up
Because
until Trump.
it's so clear that they're
No,
so
it's not clear. It's not
up.
clear, Brian. It's not clear to 73 million Americans.
Well, that's why I said, and it goes back to that original question I had. Are those 70? What's different? Is there something different about them now that like they
Yes.
were only just bad? Now they're just
Yes,
batshit crazy.
and I will tell you. I will tell you what it is, and it's part of what Ryan said. So I agree 100% with him. Their behavior has been validated by the President of the United States. Their anger, their fear, their hatred has been validated by the President of the United States.
And keep in mind, a lot of them did not vote for him the first time around because they just didn't vote.
That's true.
Right. They came out.
Now, there was a period of time, and I think you gentlemen probably remember it. There was a big movement in 2016. A lot of journalists and report. We've got to understand these people. What happened to them? Well, what happened to them is they were poor or they hated people, and now suddenly they had their candidate.
And they have the candidate who will basically endorse that type of behavior and say, it's okay to be a racist and all that kind of crap and be an asshole. It's basically letting them be an asshole. So now they all lie.
We know that Trump would much rather go out and party with Hillary Clinton, which he did before they ran. Okay, he was friendly with the Clintons.
That's right.
Than he would any person who wasn't a millionaire, not picking on you, in Kentucky. And yet people in Kentucky who should be opposed to him, which is one of the great, conundrums, tragedies, whatever you want to say. Democrats lost. They used to be the party of the working people. Wow. But that's the way it is. And that's why, I feel safe tonight. Ryan, if we were getting paid for this gig, Brian takes all the money. But
wait, we're not getting paid?
No, he does. He says he's going to give it to you. He never does. But what happens is this: we have job security in our no-paying job for life. America.
I'll give you my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, I've seen what that's worth. I've seen what that. But I mean, seriously. And that's kind of in a way discouraging. So you're going to have to, guys. Everybody out there is going to have to fight the way I do. I've lost so many battles. It's the only way I can fight. It's not about winning or losing. It's about picking the right side every time and trying to be on that side, whether you win or lose, because it's what you do, not the outcome. If it's sports, it's different. Giving your best in the Super Bowl, no, you got to win the Super Bowl, right? But in this arena of politics and trying to be a good person and helping others.
We have a good comment here. I wanted to breaking news. Gary Peacock, I think he nailed it. Don't you think?
Oh, no question. No question.
It's white privilege going extinct. I had to put that sounder there because it was that good of a comment.
I like that. It was breaking news. I was raised in a time of journalism when we used Underwood typewriters, but we still had the clicking machines that came through AP. Right. And I'm looking over there. I said, "Oh, it's break." I mean, really, that sound means breaking news to me. So
right. It's white privilege going extinct, and this, I guess, answers that question. Is 4 years ago they saw it happening even more, but now they felt like we can hold on to this thing, but the only way we can hold on is have some lunatic that will just bend the rules and just now he's going to break them.
Gary and I have been political, mostly in agreement since about 1968 on things, and we've had this discussion a lot about white privilege, and we acknowledge it. So I'm going to put both you gentlemen on there. A very simple yes, no. Brian first. Is there such a thing as white privilege?
Yes. Just through legacy wealth.
Do you benefit from it?
Yes.
Yeah. Ryan, same too. Is there such a thing as white privilege?
Oh yeah. And
I've
benefited from it. Oh yeah. Traffic stops.
So,
all of them I got out of it, for example.
No, right. Yeah. And I'm probably the best benefit of it. I mean, no offense, my last name's not Velez, even though you're not Hispanic. My last name's Price, and that's Welsh, Price.
I think the biggest thing with white privilege is legacy wealth. I mean, I'm not talking about millions, but when somebody inherits a house from their mom and dad, and I mean, it just goes on and on. In the African American community, that doesn't happen. I mean, it happens, but
now that's a part of white privilege I have not benefited from.
Neither have I. So I'm, I'm still. But Steve's still right. That's why I had to wait a second to think. Like, you still have the stop sign.
It's still a thing though, because just being white, the police aren't a problem for me. Every encounter I've ever had,
and there you are. And even when you're committing crimes, a number of times when I was younger, I was carrying contraband, not in amounts that we're dealing, but certainly in excess of personal use. And I walked every time.
Joey Fulcher has a big shout out to Gary Peacock in that last
simply because it's white. How many times have you been pulled over, Brian, in your life?
Hold on. No, that's. I could go on for a show. I got pulled over, and I had a terrible experience with the cop, and I'm still angry right now.
Times?
You're still mad, yeah.
Twice.
And how many tickets did you get?
I got one.
Ticketed both
one
times.
ticket.
The second time,
I fought that ticket. That son of a bitch. Cop was a liar. I had to go to court, and the judge tried to shut me up. And he said he was going to be in contempt of court, but luckily his attorney and the damn cop didn't show up. You know what's nice,
Ryan? I'm going to talk over him. Nothing's personal with him. You notice that, right? Ryan.
And by the way, Joey's been stopped by the cops too, because he just got.
Ryan, how many times have you been stopped by police?
I think 4 times. No, I got no tickets when I was actively stopped. I did get a ticket once for parking too far away from the curb, but I was on a curb.
You're like Kentucky's criminal number one. Now,
shout out from Gary to Joey.
My story's a little bit different. I've probably been pulled over 35 times, maybe more. Now, it wasn't just white privilege. I also had repertorial privileges. I knew the police. I mean, and again, that's because you move in those circles, et cetera, et cetera. Every time I've ever gotten a ticket, I deserved it.
Joey, I know you've been pulled over a lot of times. He was talking about the construction
zone.
But
my point is this: you could be the richest, most moral black man and woman raising the most moral family in America. I'm thinking of the Obamas, right? If one of their daughters is out doing something and she's not recognized as an Obama daughter,
she can just go to her own house and have a problem like that professor.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And I think sex
is terrible. This thing, but
maybe you guys can help me with this. I don't get it. I have no problem seeing white privilege. I have no problem admitting that I've been benefited from it. So I see it, and I have no problem with saying it's not right. How do we make it more equal? So what I don't get, I can understand not even wanting to make it more equal. What I can't understand is knocking over my mic because I'm getting too comfortable here. What I can't understand is this: how do you not see it? How do you not? It's like looking at Donald Trump and saying, there's a guy I want to lead my country. Looking at just the reality out there and not saying yes. You don't even have to say it's unfair. That comes next. Yeah. But yes, there's white privilege.
I explained this to a friend of mine in an interesting way. This will resonate with any chess players who are listening a little bit. But basically...
wait a minute. I have to interrupt you. What word is banned here? Is there another name for chess? Because Brian heard chess, and now he's thinking about Joey Heatherton. But go ahead.
Oh my God! Yeah. Leave Joey Heatherton alone.
But anyway, basically in chess, I explained to this guy. I said, okay, there's this thing in chess called openings. It's the first, say, 5 to 10 moves of how you play. For those who don't know, that's just a quick definition. And I basically said, it's really interesting. This opening that I like started out in like the 1700s. Didn't get played a whole lot, but over time, different players took up the opening and improved upon it, and people kept playing it. And now it's one of the most played openings in the world. And he goes, yeah. And I said, it's really interesting how the past can affect, now. Mm-hmm. And he's like, that's true. And I said, all right, what about slavery? Oh, no. That was way too far back, And I was just like, dude, you can't have it both ways. You just can't. You know,
which I think is in general one of the problems that I have with Trump Republicans. They want it both ways. You know, when it's in their favor, it's fine. When it's not, it's not. Now, I want to take a little different thing here. We're saying tonight, I think we're all kind of agreeing that there is an us versus them, right? I mean, and that's not going away. And it would be nice if we could educate them. They don't want to educate us; they just want to shoot us, which is another solution.
Right, that doesn't help.
But what I'm saying now, Ryan, I'm going to put you on the spot for a moment. You've seen Brian in operation, and you know that he means well, but often has trouble bringing that well-being to action. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it was solely his fault. I'd love to say it was Ryan's fault or my fault. Why we were going on. He accused both of us unjustly. I'm not playing Trump of it being our problem. It's always his. Do you think you could teach, Ryan? I'm assuming you would agree with me. It'd be very difficult to teach liberalism to the Trump Republicans, correct? I mean, they're just like.
I think it would be difficult. I think the number one thing is we have to find, and I say this very honestly, and right. I'm guilty of this by far, right. But I think the first thing we as in people who are not them, have right. to do is find a way to communicate to them,
right,
without insulting them, and that's part of the problem. Because
yeah, right, and they hear it. I'm not saying they hear insults even when they're not directed.
Right, that's the problem. Like I'll say something. I do not just overtly insult people. I've never. That's not who I am.
do, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I mean, I do it behind the scenes, but I don't. I very rarely have ever said anything to someone that's just like, "This is my opinion of you, buddy." You know, I don't do that. But I still get told I'm being offensive all the time, and it's like I'm not even trying to be. I don't know what I'm saying. Like facts can be offensive, I guess. I don't know.
I guess. Well, I'm gonna close, and I'm gonna close. I'm actually not gonna talk. I just have 10 seconds and you guys can close out the show.
I've got one thing I want to say after you.
Well, Ryan, my question is this. Look at Brian or look at Brian's direction or, you see him on the screen. Would it be easier to, I hate to use the word convert. So let's say bring to the light out of the darkness a Trumpublican or teach a Brian Weinstein to be just average in chess? Which would be more difficult, do you think?
I think I could teach him to be average in chess. Would be easier. So,
okay, one last question.
I'm a pretty good teacher at chess.
I know, but would it be easier if it were Bobo the Wonder Chimp or Brian?
I think I could. I think I could teach Bobo a little bit of chess.
Thank you, everyone who was here tonight.
Okay, Dave, we gotta let him speak now. Okay,
I've got one question for both of you. I thought of this. I never thought about this before until Dave said something earlier. But how far or how much of the Constitution do you think Trump has read? Go. I know the answer.
Quite honestly, none.
What do you think?
That's Brian? What I would say. I don't think that's the right answer, but I would say based on his actions.
No, it's not the right answer. I know the answer. I thought of it earlier.
My guess is he just looked at the signatures, maybe, and that's about it. I could be wrong. I mean,
the first three letters. He read the first three letters,
which are
con. You
know what, Ryan? I've always held you. That's something Brian would say.
That is I didn't say that one, Dave.
That is really. You just thought of that now.
I just thought of that now. I feel really proud of myself too.
Brian stays up for days planning his jokes, and he's never reached that pinnacle that you just reached. I haven't either, and I'm the resident jokester of this trio. Great, and I'm going there. What are the first three letters? I'm trying to think. Yeah. That's nice to laugh. We can still laugh, gentlemen, out there to our audience. It's scary times. Rely on each other, hug each other, stay safe, and try to laugh when you can, because this is going to be a long, long, long struggle.
Well, it certainly is. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and
yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Ryan. It's a pleasure having you all the time. It really is. And we had one hell of a time trying to get on. It was really, really tough. And
Have you
just
thought
one of
about
those
hiring a
things.
professional?
And we look. I told you everything is demonetized. Nobody has to pay for anything. We don't expect anybody to pay for anything. It's just the way it is, and that's that. I'm gonna try to end up with this bumper that we used to use before. I don't know. This might be a little bit tough, or I might have to just take us out the old style. Just say goodbye. But I do like to see the comments run through. Yeah, we can do it. Okay, guys. I'll see you whenever.
On the other side.
Yeah. All right. We'll see.
D'un lion, il y a une jolie fille. D'un lion, il y a une jolie fille. Elle est jolie, parfaite en beauté, qu'elle a charmé. Elle a charmé le cœur d'un grenadier. Bon grenadier, amène-moi dans ta chambre. Bon grenadier, amène-moi dans ta chambre. Oui, dans ma chambre, je t'emmènerai et je te donnerai. Et je te donnerai le cœur d'un grenadier. Et l'autre amant qui est à la porte qui écoute. Et l'autre amant qui est à la porte qui écoute. Croisant ses bras, jetant la vue au ciel, se dit grand Dieu. Se dit grand Dieu que je suis malheureux. Dum, dum, da. D'avoir aimé une aussi jolie fille, et à présent il faut l'abandonner. Oh oui, grand Dieu, grand Dieu, oh oui, grand Dieu, que je suis malheureux.